the human relic hunter. Chapter 5. Awakening the Sleeper. Durin stepped cautiously onto the ramp of the Terran scout shuttle, his claws clicking softly against the pristine metal. The interior lights glowed faintly, casting long, inviting shadows that stretched into the vessel. He stopped just inside the entrance, looking around as if afraid the entire scene might vanish if he blinked. "This," he whispered, "is the dream. My wildest dream." "You are blocking the entrance," Seraph's voice crackled in his helmet. "Kindly move forward before you faint from excitement." "Not fainting," Durin muttered, though he did pinch himself discreetly. "Just taking it in." Bolt trundled past him, his stabilizing arms extending to gently push him aside. "New captain, observation, structural integrity, flawless. Entryway design, optimal for Terran standards." "Flawless," Durin repeated, his voice filled with awe as he followed Bolt further into the ship. The corridors were sleek and spotless, their walls lined with panels that pulsed faintly with life. The floor was smooth, unblemished, and even the air felt strangely clean, carrying the faint metallic tang of dormant technology. "This place is untouched," Durin said, running a claw along the wall. "It's like they just walked out yesterday." "Or were forcefully removed," Seraph noted. "Proceed with caution!" The corridor opened into the bridge, and Durin stopped in his tracks. The room was spacious and bathed in soft ambient light. Rows of sleek consoles lined the walls, their displays dormant but hinting at unimaginable complexity. A central command chair stood elevated on a platform, its design angular yet elegant, facing a massive viewport that framed the storm-racked jungle outside. Durin's jaw dropped. "I'm standing on the bridge of a Terran ship," he murmured. "This is it. The big one. The story they'll tell about me for centuries." "Optimism noted," Seraph said. "Now perhaps focus on ensuring this isn't also your final story." Bolt rolled to the nearest console, his optics scanning the glyphs etched into its surface. System status dormant. Initiating preliminary activation. The console flickered to life with a low hum, glyphs scrolling rapidly across its display. Bolt's stabilizing arms extended to steady himself as he accessed the system, his optics glowing brighter. "Designation detected. Maintenance Drone Unit 13, Bolt chirped proudly. "Partial control, granted," Durin smirked, crossing his arms. "Well, looks like they remember you, Bolt. Maintenance Drone Unit 13 back in action." "Affirmative," Bolt replied, his tone cheerful. "Recognition established." "Good to see you've still got some pull with the Terrans," Durin teased. "So, what can you do with partial control?" Bolt tilted his dome as he examined the display. "Command options available. Activating internal systems." A series of soft whirs and clicks filled the bridge as lights brightened, displays flickered on, and faint vibrations signaled the reawakening of the ship's long-dormant mechanisms. "This is incredible," Durin said, stepping toward one of the consoles. "Bolt, keep going. Let's see what this baby can do." "Command accepted," Bolt chirped. He pressed a sequence of glyphs, and with a sudden hiss, all the seats on the bridge began to lower in unison. Durin blinked, looking around in confusion. What was that?" "Command misinterpretation," Bolt said sheepishly. "Seat adjustment complete." Durin chuckled, leaning against the console. "Not exactly what I had in mind, but hey, we'll call it a test run." As Bolt continued working, the ship responded with occasional bursts of unintended activity. A series of cleaning drones emerged from concealed compartments, whirring aggressively as they began scrubbing the spotless floor. One drone collided with Bolt's wheels, prompting a flurry of confused chirps. "Command poorly executed," Bolt admitted, backing away from the overly enthusiastic drones. Durin laughed, waving off the chaos. "It's fine, Bolt. Just focus on the important stuff, like unlocking whatever secrets this ship is hiding." After several minutes of trial and error, Bolt paused, his optics dimming slightly as he scanned a new series of glyphs. "System lock detected. Critical systems inaccessible. Ship requires official captain designation." "Captain designation?" Durin repeated. "What does that mean?" "Access restricted," Bolt explained. "Command structure requires recognized captain for full activation." Durin scratched his head, his antennae twitching. "So we can't do anything serious until the ship thinks we have a captain?" "Affirmative," Bolt said, tilting his dome. Captain registration necessary. Process. Possible with maintenance drone unit 13 assistance. Durin sighed, looking at the glowing command chair at the center of the bridge. Guess that means me. Bolt, you're sure you can handle this? Confidence, optimal, Bolt chirped. Well, that makes one of us, Durin muttered, stepping toward the chair. All right, Bolt. Make me the captain. Just don't break anything important while you're at it. As Bolt began the registration sequence, the lights on the bridge dimmed slightly, and a soft chime echoed through the chamber. Durin sat down, gripping the armrests nervously. As Durin sank into the command chair, the cool, sleek metal humming faintly beneath him. The glyphs around the bridge dimmed, focusing a soft spotlight on his seat as the ship's systems shifted into a dormant standby. He gripped the armrests nervously, his antennae twitching with anticipation. So, Bolt, Durin said, glancing at the little drone trundling toward the central console. You sure this is going to work? Confidence elevated, Bolt chirped brightly. His stabilizing arms extended to access the command panel, glyphs scrolling rapidly across the display. That's what you said before you activated those cleaning drones, Durin muttered. Incident, unrelated, Bolt replied, his optics glowing brighter. Initiating captain recognition sequence. The bridge lights dimmed further, and a deep mechanical chime resonated through the ship. A holographic panel materialized in front of Durin, displaying glyphs interspersed with images of a Terran figure in a formal pose. Recognition sequence active, the ship's automated voice announced, its tone precise and devoid of emotion. Candidate, state your designation. Durin raised an eyebrow at Bolt. Designation? Name, Bolt supplied helpfully. State your name. Oh, right. Durin cleared his throat, sitting up straighter. Durin? Just Durin. The hologram shifted, projecting a beam of light that scanned him from head to toe. He winced, squinting against the glare. Scan complete, the voice intoned. Terran genetic markers, absent. Candidate designation, non-Terran entity. Good observation, Durin said dryly. Do I still pass? Bolt chirped, his optics flickering as he worked furiously at the console. Override protocols, engaged. Non-Terran exception, possible. Additional criteria required. The hologram morphed again, displaying a glyph-laden oath in shimmering lines of light. Candidate must recite the oath of command, the ship's voice continued. Translation available. Durin groaned, leaning back in the chair. An oath? Really? All right, let's get this over with. The glyphs translated into a formal script, and Durin began reading aloud with exaggerated flair. I, Durin, swear to uphold the directives of this vessel, to navigate the stars with wisdom and courage, and to not, under any circumstances, press buttons I don't understand. Bolt tilted his dome. Translation, incorrect. Original text lacks final statement. Artistic license, Durin said with a grin. The hologram pulsed, and the ship's voice spoke again. Command recognition sequence complete. Candidate designation, Captain Durin. Privileges granted. Durin sat up straighter, a smug smile spreading across his face. Captain Durin. Has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Subjective, Seraph interjected through the comms, his tone as dry as ever, though I'm sure it's the highlight of your otherwise dubious career. Jealousy doesn't suit you, Seraph, Durin shot back, running a claw along the edge of the glowing console. You'd love this place. Terran tech everywhere, pristine systems. It's like stepping into a legend. I'm seeing enough to remain unimpressed, Seraph replied, his sarcasm undimmed. The glyphs on the console suggest advanced specifications, though your dramatic narration is unnecessary. Durin chuckled, leaning in to study the scrolling glyphs. You're telling me this ship isn't amazing? Look at these engines. These stats are off the charts. The Wanderer's engines wouldn't even make a decent spare part by comparison. Spare part might be generous, Seraph said. These engines appear capable of sustained travel at speeds far beyond standard hyperdrives. If accurate, they could outrun anything currently in use. Finally, some enthusiasm, Durin said with a grin. What else do you see? The systems you're accessing indicate functional navigation and dormant weapons, Seraph replied. However, the AI core remains inactive. Attempting activation without full command privileges is inadvisable. Durin's antennae twitched as he processed the information. An inactive AI core. That's interesting. What do you think it's for? Speculation without more data is pointless, Seraph said, though there was a note of curiosity in his tone. Its designation as core suggests it may govern the ship's higher functions, or something more specific. Further exploration is required. Durin tapped his claws thoughtfully on the console. We'll need to get you aboard to dig deeper. This ship's got secrets, and you're the key to unlocking them. I expected as much, Seraph replied. However, ensure the vessel's systems are stable before transferring my core. I have no desire to be stranded in an incompatible environment. Durin smirked. Wouldn't dream of it. Bolt, what's your read on the bridge? Bolt chirped brightly, his optics glowing as glyphs scrolled across the console he was working on. Systems, partially active. Engines, optimal. Navigation, online. Weapons, dormant. AI core, requires authorization for activation. Durin's grin widened. This just keeps getting better. What else? Ship designation, unidentified, Bolt added. Database access limited. Genetic restriction detected. AI core activation requires Terran DNA verification. Durin blinked, his antennae twitching. Terran DNA? That's inconvenient. Last time I checked, I'm not exactly built like a Terran. Correct, Seraph said through the comms, his tone as sharp as ever. It seems the ship's designers anticipated non-Terrans attempting to use their technology. Your captaincy grants basic command privileges, but the more advanced systems, including the AI core, remain inaccessible. Great, Durin muttered, leaning back in the command chair. So, I'm the captain of a ship that doesn't fully listen to me? Accurate, Seraph replied. Bolt chirped brightly, his optics glowing as he scanned the console. Override attempt, possible through Maintenance Drone Unit 13. Success probability, minimal. Well, that's something, Durin said with a sigh. Looks like we'll need to rely on you and Seraph to unlock as much as we can. But the AI core stays dormant unless we find some Terran DNA? Where am I supposed to get that? An excellent question, Seraph said. Perhaps the database contains information about this vessel's last mission or crew. That might provide a lead. Durin tapped his claws against the console, his mind racing. All right, Seraph. First things first, let's get you plugged in. If anyone can figure out this Terran mystery, it's you. Eager as always, Seraph said. Ensure you don't damage my core during transfer. Your track record with delicate systems leaves much to be desired. Hey, Durin protested. I patched you up after that power surge last month. You're welcome, by the way. Your patch was functional, Seraph admitted reluctantly. Barely, Durin laughed, waving a claw dismissively as he turned to Bolt. All right, buddy, time to head back to the Wanderer. We've got work to do. Mission accepted, Bolt chirped, retracting his stabilizing arms as he rolled toward the exit. Durin cast one last glance at the command chair, its glow beckoning like a long-forgotten treasure. Hang tight, Seraph. We're bringing you to the future, or well, the past's future, whatever you call this. Your grasp of temporal terminology is as impressive as ever, Seraph replied, his sarcasm unshaken. Durin grinned as he followed Bolt out of the bridge, the hum of the ship's systems fading behind them. The jungle's oppressive atmosphere enveloped Durin and Bolt as they made their way back to the Wanderer. The faint hum of the Terran shuttle behind them faded into the distance, replaced by the rustling of unseen creatures and the occasional screech from high in the canopy. Durin swatted at a vine dangling precariously close to his head and muttered, Seraph's going to give me an earful about this. Bolt trundled alongside him, his stabilizing arms extending periodically to nudge aside debris. Mission progress satisfactory. Seraph retrieval imminent. I wouldn't call dragging him out of his comfort zone satisfactory, Durin said with a smirk. He's not going to like being stuffed into that shiny new ship. He'll adapt, Bolt chirped cheerfully. As they reached the Wanderer, its battered hull glinting faintly in the dappled jungle light, Seraph's voice crackled over the comms. Ah, you've returned. I was beginning to think the jungle had claimed you, Durin. A tragedy for the history books, I'm sure. Nice to see you missed me, Durin said, rolling his eyes. We've got everything sorted on the Terran ship, so it's time to pack your bags, Seraph. You're moving in. Tempting, Seraph replied dryly. But I'm not particularly eager to leave the Wanderer. She may be a rust bucket, but she's my rust bucket. Besides, the jungle seems like a poor place for hasty relocations. Don't tell me you're sentimental, Durin teased, stepping onto the Wanderer's ramp. I thought AIs didn't do feelings. I do not, Seraph said. But I do appreciate functionality. The Wanderer, despite her flaws, has been customized to accommodate my systems. Moving to an unfamiliar platform is inefficient. Well, you're going, Durin said firmly, setting his machete aside. This new ship makes the Wanderer look like a cargo hauler held together with glue and desperation. Which, incidentally, is accurate, Seraph quipped. Bolt trundled over to a storage compartment, his stabilizing arms fumbling with the latch. He chirped triumphantly as it opened, revealing a clutter of tools and spare parts. Tools retrieved. Preparation initiated. Careful with that, Durin warned, watching as Bolt attempted to lift a wrench far too large for his frame. The drone wobbled precariously, his optics flashing an alarm before the wrench slipped from his grip with a loud clang. Minor error, Bolt chirped, tilting his dome. Mission continues. Durin groaned, pinching the bridge of his nose. All right, Bolt. Just grab what you can actually carry. Let's not destroy the ship before we leave it. After a series of similar mishaps, including Bolt accidentally triggering an airlock alarm and nearly sealing himself outside, they finally reached Seraph's core chamber. The dimly lit room hummed softly, dominated by a sleek cylindrical module nestled in the center. Behold, Seraph said, his tone dripping with mock grandeur. The heart of the Wanderer. Handle with care, Durin, or I will haunt you. Durin rolled his eyes, stepping toward the module. Yeah. You ready for this? As ready as I'll ever be, Seraph replied. Though I feel compelled to remind you that if you damage my core, you'll be left with only Bolt for conversation. Bolt chirped brightly. Conversation. Optimal. Let's not test that theory, Durin said, carefully disconnecting the first of several conduits attached to the module. Sparks danced briefly in the air as the power lines detached, and the hum in the room dimmed slightly. With Bolt's help, Durin managed to lift the module onto a makeshift cart, strapping it down securely. As they began to wheel the cart toward the exit, Durin paused, his antennae twitching. Wait a second, he said, glancing back toward the storage compartments near the cockpit. Can't leave without my collection. Bolt tilted his dome. Relics? Priority? They're more than just relics, Bolt. They're history, Durin said, striding over to the compartments. He retrieved a carefully packed case, filled with his prized Terran artifacts, the preserved can, the watch, and the miniature Earth globe among them. Setting the case securely on the cart beside Seraph's module, he gave the relics an affectionate pat. Can't let these get left behind in the jungle. I wasn't aware we were running a museum, Seraph quipped. Every great captain needs mementos, Durin shot back. Satisfied, he resumed pushing the cart, the added weight barely noticeable. They maneuvered it out of the chamber and down the ramp, the jungle's humid air immediately clinging to their skin and sensors alike. Transporting Seraph is like carrying royalty, Durin joked as they navigated the uneven ground. Royalty typically travels with less risk of being dropped, Seraph replied. They arrived at the Terran shuttle without further incident, the ship's faint hum welcoming them back. Durin and Bolt wheeled Seraph's module onto the ramp and into the core integration chamber, a sleek room lined with dormant systems and faintly glowing panels. All right, Seraph, Durin said, wiping his brow. Let's plug you in and see what this baby can do. As Bolt connected the final conduit, the room's lights dimmed, and the ship emitted a low, resonant chime. Glyphs scrolled rapidly across the panels, their glow intensifying. Integration initiated, Bolt reported. Suddenly the glyphs shifted to red, and the lights flickered ominously. The room vibrated as the ship's voice echoed, Unauthorized integration detected. Lockdown protocols engaged. Durin cursed, gripping his machete instinctively. What the hell is happening, Seraph? Apparently, Seraph said, his tone clipped, the ship doesn't appreciate uninvited guests. I suggest you resolve this quickly before we're all ejected into the jungle. The ship's alarms blared, the walls vibrating as the glyphs on the panels pulsed an angry red. Durin ducked instinctively, his claws gripping the edge of the console. This is not how I imagined upgrading your digs, Seraph! Durin shouted over the noise. The situation is suboptimal, Seraph's voice replied, strained yet controlled. The ship's systems appear to recognize my core as foreign and are initiating defensive protocols. I suggest resolution before the ship decides to incinerate us. Bolt chirped from where he was fumbling with a set of dangling cables. Systems. Escalating. Lockdown. Intensifying. Solution. Urgent. No kidding, Durin muttered, his antennae twitching wildly. He scanned the glowing glyphs on the console, their patterns shifting too quickly to decipher. Seraph, can you do anything? Attempting to interface, Seraph replied. His voice grew clipped as if he were speaking through gritted teeth. The ship's operating system is significantly more advanced than anticipated. Refactoring my protocols is required. Stand by, Durin grumbled, ducking another loud hiss from a vent that released a plume of pressurized air. Oh, sure. I'll just stand here and hope we don't explode while you have your existential crisis. Noted, Seraph shot back. Bolt rolled to Durin's side, his stabilizing arms extending to steady himself as he accessed a secondary console. Override attempt initiated. Accessing auxiliary systems. The glyphs on the panels flickered, shifting from red to yellow. The vibrations lessened, though the alarms continued. Progress? Durin asked, glancing between Bolt and the glowing panels. Temporary stabilization, Seraph replied. Bolt's efforts are commendable, though rudimentary. I require additional time to complete the integration. You and time aren't exactly friends right now, Durin quipped, stepping back as the ship emitted another ominous hum. I will endeavor to rectify that relationship, Seraph replied sharply. Please refrain from commentary. It is not conducive to my efficiency. Durin smirked, leaning against the wall as Bolt chirped nervously beside him. Seraph, if you can't multitask by now, what good are you? The alarms abruptly ceased, and the lights in the room dimmed before shifting to a calm blue. The hum of the ship deepened, becoming a steady vibration that resonated through the floor. Integration complete, Seraph announced, his tone smug. The ship has acknowledged my core as a compatible subsystem. You're welcome. Durin let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Well, took you long enough? What's the verdict? Are we good to go? Define good, Seraph replied. The ship isn't trying to kill us anymore, Durin said. Then yes, Seraph said. Preliminary analysis of the ship's systems reveals an extraordinary level of sophistication. This vessel was designed with capabilities far beyond current galactic technology. Durin grinned, rubbing his hands together. All right, hit me with the details. The engines alone are several times faster than anything I currently have on record, Seraph said. The sensor systems can detect anomalies at distances previously deemed impossible. And the weapons systems, though currently dormant, possess firepower on par with capital-class vessels. Now that's what I'm talking about, Durin said, his excitement mounting. What else? Most notably, the operational database is intact, Seraph continued, his voice uncharacteristically reverent. It contains detailed logs of Terran technology, navigation routes, and references to something called the Sleeper's Directive. The Sleeper again, Durin murmured, his antennae twitching. What does the database say about it? Accessing, Seraph replied. A pause followed, one that stretched long enough for Durin to glance nervously at Bolt. Seraph? You still with us? Durin asked. I am, Seraph replied quietly, his tone lacking its usual edge. The directive appears to be a fail-safe embedded within the ship's systems. Its full purpose is unclear, but its priority level suggests it was central to the Terrans' final actions before their disappearance. Durin let the weight of Seraph's words settle before speaking. Anything about where we go next? Yes, Seraph said. The database contains coordinates for an uncharted system. It appears to be the next destination associated with the directive. If the logs are accurate, it may hold answers to the Terran's fate. Durin's grin returned, though it was tempered by a flicker of unease. Looks like we've got our next mission. Bolt, prep the engines. Seraph, you keep digging into that database. As you wish, Captain, Seraph said, the title tinged with an almost sarcastic reverence. Before Bolt could trundle fully toward the cockpit, Seraph interrupted. One additional consideration, the Oracle core retrieved from the ice planet. It highlighted 10 locations of significance tied to Terran history. I recommend integrating it with the shuttle's systems for cross-referencing. Durin paused, his antennae twitching. You think the Oracle's map could overlap with the database here? Highly probable, Seraph replied. It would refine our path and provide further clarity regarding these locations. Bolt, Durin said, motioning to the drone. Grab the core. Let's do this properly. As Bolt returned with the glowing core, The ship's systems pulsed to life, the star map of the Oracle aligning with the shuttle's database. A single marker blinked brighter than the rest, a clear overlap of information. "There it is," Durin muttered, staring at the map. "That's where we're heading next." "Engines powering up," Seraph announced, his tone calm but precise. The hum of the Terran shuttle deepened, a steady vibration resonating through the floor as the systems engaged. The shuttle lifted gracefully into the air under Seraph's control, its sleek frame cutting through the humid jungle air. Below, the dense canopy became a blur of green and shadow, its mysteries now left behind. Bolt chirped eagerly from his console. "Ascent, nominal. Engines, optimal. Contribution, efficient." Durin smirked, glancing toward the viewport as clouds rushed past. "Efficient or not, it feels good to let someone else do the heavy lifting for once." "Spoken like a true captain," Seraph quipped. "I will maintain control of the engines for now, though I suggest familiarizing yourself with the systems. The ship's capabilities warrant your full attention." "Don't worry, Seraph," Durin said, settling into his seat. "I'll take the reins when it counts. Right now I'm enjoying the ride." "Do try to focus, Captain," Seraph's voice crackled through the comms. "While the ship's initial systems are operational, there are numerous diagnostics and adjustments required to ensure we remain in one piece during flight." "Always the buzzkill," Durin said, his antennae twitching as he reached for the controls. "But fine, let's run your checks." At his console, Bolt's optics glowed brightly as glyphs scrolled across the screen. "Diagnostics initiated. Contribution optimal." "Let's not pat ourselves on the back just yet, Bolt," Durin said, though his tone was light. "This thing might be a Terran masterpiece, but we still need to make sure it doesn't explode halfway to our destination." "Explosion! Undesirable," Bolt chirped. "An understatement," Seraph interjected dryly. Durin tapped a few controls, marveling at the ease with which the shuttle responded. "I've flown a lot of ships, but this is something else. It's like the controls are reading my mind." "Highly unlikely," Seraph said. "The shuttle's interface is designed for optimal user response. It compensates for inefficiencies, which in your case appear to be numerous." "Thanks for the vote of confidence," Durin said, rolling his eyes. Meanwhile, Bolt was eagerly navigating through basic protocols, his optics flickering with excitement. "Navigation systems, active. Autopilot, engaged." "Good work, Bolt," Durin said. "Autopilot, disengaged," Bolt announced a moment later, his dome tilting as if confused. "Wait, what?" Durin's claws flew to the controls as the ship gave a slight lurch. "Bolt, what did you just do?" "Command, reversed," Bolt chirped, his tone uncertain. "Bolt!" Durin snapped, steadying the ship. "No more pressing random buttons." "Experimentation. Valuable for learning," Bolt replied innocently. "Not when we're 100 kilometers off the ground," Durin growled. The shuttle's hum deepened as it stabilized, the controls quickly responding to Durin's adjustments. Seraph's tone was clipped but calm. "Captain, while Bolt's enthusiasm is commendable, I suggest you refrain from allowing him unsupervised access to critical systems." "Yeah, no kidding," Durin muttered, shooting Bolt a look. "Buddy, maybe stick to running diagnostics." "Understood," Bolt chirped, though his optics dimmed slightly in what might have been disappointment. With the immediate chaos resolved, Seraph resumed the integration of the Oracle core into the shuttle's systems. The star map from the core aligned with the shuttle's database, the markers glowing brightly as the navigation systems processed the data. "Integration complete," Seraph announced. The map has been enhanced. The overlapping marker represents a site of profound significance to Terran history. It aligns with references to the Sleeper's directive. Durin's antennae twitched as he studied the glowing marker. "That's our ticket. What else can you tell me about this place?" "The database describes it as a repository of knowledge and technology," Seraph said. "Its exact purpose remains unclear, but the information suggests it was a critical site during the Terran's final years." "Sounds like a jackpot," Durin said, his grin widening. "All right, let's get through this storm and make some history." The shuttle pierced the upper atmosphere with ease, its engines handling the turbulence effortlessly. Lightning flashed around them, but the ship's shields absorbed the energy without a hint of strain. "Now this is flying," Durin said, gripping the controls tightly. The ship responded with precision, each movement smooth and immediate. No more struggling through storms. The Wanderer could barely handle a stiff breeze compared to this. An apt comparison, Seraph said. This shuttle's engines and shielding are significantly superior. The Terrans were clearly ahead of their time. As they broke free of the storm, the dark expanse of space unfolded before them, stars stretching infinitely in every direction. Durin leaned back, his eyes gleaming with excitement. Now this, he said softly, is what I signed up for. The shuttle's systems hummed with efficiency, the controls glowing faintly under Durin's hands. Behind him, Bolt chirped as he ran another diagnostic, this time without incident. All systems optimal, Bolt reported. Good, Durin said, his grin returning. Because we're just getting started. The star map on the main console displayed the overlapping marker from the Oracle core and the ship's database, pulsing faintly. It represented not just a destination, but a promise of answers tied to Terran history. Durin leaned back in the captain's chair, his antennae twitching thoughtfully. This ship, he said, gesturing broadly to the sleek cockpit. It's too legendary not to have a proper name. We need something that fits. Bolt chirped eagerly. Designation proposal, Star Transport 13. Durin barked a laugh, turning to the little drone. Bolt, we're flying a Terran masterpiece, not a cargo hauler. Hard pass. Humor. Detected, Bolt said, tilting his dome slightly. An improvement over your usual suggestions, Seraph interjected, his tone dry. Though I would propose a name that reflects the gravitas of this vessel's origins. Celestial Vanguard, perhaps. Gravitas? Durin said, smirking. You trying to win a poetry contest, Seraph? This isn't a High Council ship, it's ours. It needs something with personality. Personality is not a metric for practicality, Seraph replied. Ignoring him, Durin tapped a claw against the console, his gaze drifting out the expansive viewport to the stars beyond. The quiet hum of the ship filled the moment, the pulse of the marker on the map casting a faint glow on his face. All right, here's what we're going to do, Durin announced, sitting up straighter. We're calling her Wanderer 2. The silence that followed was tangible. Seraph finally broke it. That's uninspired. Exactly, Durin said, grinning. It's perfect. A callback to the old ship, but with a serious upgrade. It's got history. It's got humor. What's not to love? Bolt tilted his dome. Humor. Present. Designation? Acceptable. Wanderer 2 logged. See? Bolt gets it, Durin said, leaning back triumphantly. If I had hands, I would be rubbing my non-existent temples, Seraph said. You'll come around, Durin said, grinning. Now let's plot a course to that marker. Seraph, you're in charge of navigation. Bolt, make sure we're ready for hyperspace. The team got to work, the hum of the ship shifting subtly as its systems adjusted. The marker on the map loomed brighter as Seraph's voice broke the quiet. The coordinates have been entered. This system is uncharted and located on the far edge of known space. Travel time will be minimal thanks to the shuttle's advanced engines. Minimal, huh? Durin said, gripping the controls. Guess that means we'll be there before Seraph can complain about the name again. I remain unimpressed, Seraph replied. The shuttle's engines pulsed with energy, their hum growing deeper. The glyphs on the console glowed brighter, casting long shadows across the cockpit as the ship prepared for hyperspace. All systems optimal, Bolt confirmed, his tone chirping with excitement. Durin placed his claws on the controls, his grin widening as he gazed at the stars ahead. All right, team, let's make history! The shuttle's engines roared, and the stars stretched into blinding lines as the ship leapt into hyperspace. The hum of the engines shifted into a low, steady rhythm, wrapping the crew in the soothing cadence of faster-than-light travel. Durin leaned back, his antennae twitching as he stared at the streaking stars. This, he said softly, is where the real adventure begins. Behind him, Seraph's voice crackled through the comms. Captain, I am detecting a faint signal originating from the edge of the system. It matches fragments from the Wanderer's early logs, possibly related to the Guardians. Durin's smirk faded into a look of focused determination. The Guardians, huh? Guess we've got more than one mystery waiting for us. The crew settled into the hum of hyperspace, the promise of answers and danger, pulling them ever closer to the unknown.